Greetings and welcome to Project Pandora. I am Darkling and this of course is Ark Survival Evolved. As you can see in the background, we have extended the upper platform quite considerably. There is still a lot of work to do. I had estimated yesterday that I was about 80% through the actual structural side of the build. I may be more at 70%, we shall see as the time goes on. So stick around and hopefully you'll learn a few new tricks. So I thought I'd start the recording on the way up to the top platform just to give you an idea of how it's looking so far. So the slope section in the middle there, that's actually going to get, I swear I know English, that's going to get extended outwards so it should line up with the upper levels. Now I was going to use scaffold to make sure it lined up properly. As I've mentioned in some of the other videos, the ramps and slope tries aren't always that accurate when it goes to making like a large ramp structure like I've started there. By the time I get to the top I might be a few ceilings different than it should be, so I'll have to have a play with that. What I may end up doing is building the slope up there, and if it doesn't quite connect like I would like, I might have to make a few adjustments, or perhaps even run a trim of half wall around the outside just to make it look nice and tidy. So I thought I'd just fill these bits in first, seeing as I left them last time. Don't like leaving too many things between recording sessions. I do like to get this done in stages, but the stages here are getting a little bit bigger. This is turning out to be a fairly large size build. It was going to be a little bit smaller, or at least in my head it was, but as I've said before, quite often what you think it's going to be like and what it is actually like is two completely different things. So first things first, we're just going to have to sort out all the basic structures, and from there we'll go back through and fill in all the blanks like the kitchen, storage and things like that. So I think things will get a little bit more interesting for me when we get a little bit further along. Like at the moment I'm quite excited to see how it's going to turn out. I'm thinking it's pretty good at the moment. Just give me a moment. I just had a thought that I hadn't set a stopwatch. Gotta make sure these videos don't go too long. I don't want them to go over an hour each. I'm not expecting anybody to watch every single one of them or all of each. I'd be interested to know if somebody does. Hear me waffle on that long. I've already got some ideas for some smaller builds, so there will be a few little projects underway at some point. I want to get this big one finished first and then do a few small ones. This one isn't going to show off too many extreme techniques, like anything. Like I've done scroll work in some of my bases. I don't expect to be doing any on this particular one. This was meant to be a fairly simple build, but it will be a large one. And as far as it goes, even if this takes, what, 15-20 hours to build, I know plenty of people who have spent longer than that building a base. It's not that much bigger than what I expect other people to be building. Of course, they're also grinding for the materials, which does add a lot of time in. If you've got a tribe building something like this, it's not a worry. You can get things done pretty quick. I'm wondering if I should actually do a build video, or at least a tutorial video on build teams. See, I use a variety of build teams depending on what kind of gameplay I'm doing. Ragnarok I use Rollrat, Anki, Ravager, Dode, and I think that's about it. I haven't done a lot of building on Aberration yet. Preferably, I'm already out of tries. Preferably I will stick to just using a golem and a moose. So that's my absolute best combination. So the idea is you fill the moose up on as much thatch as you can carry, put it all in your inventory, and come on, there we go. And then hop on your golem and build as you go. I prefer this method. I find it the best way for me. Why are you not snapping? You should be snapping. Maybe my angle's wrong. And from underneath. Now. Done something wrong here. Wish there's no worries getting it to extend upwards. Don't particularly want to remove that there. Okay, I might have to come downwards. I must have an extra snap in there than I expected. That's fine. As far as it goes, all these walls here will probably get removed at some point. Or I might go up 4 and then out. It's all a learning curve. As you build things like this, especially in the large scale, you'll hit problems and have to backtrack and make changes and adjust what you originally planned to do. That's the thing that most people seem to want to see. Like I've said before, I've had a lot of people ask me to do this kind of building where I don't do any cutting. I have all of it on there, including me staring at things going, what am I doing? Why am I doing that? It's going to be the outside run, and I still need a whole lot of tries. Now, is the Quetzal going to carry me with that much? Yep. So I have been trying to load up the Quetzal before each recording session in the last few videos so that it's a lot quicker to get through the build. I don't have to keep going down to get resources. It has proven pretty well, but there's the occasional time where I've run out, so it's a lot quicker at least than it was going to be. So set up my hotbar. This should be plenty. I shouldn't need any more than that to finish the top level. Now there will be a lip around this top level. I'm not sure how raised it's going to be. I have been thinking about adding a wide enough spot around the outside to put the flyers on. Something the size of a Quetzal, which would be approximately 5 tiles. I haven't decided yet whether or not I'm going to do it. I have got a very large platform here to work with, so I'm not sure if I'm going to need it. But like I said, it's going to evolve as I start filling things in. When I get closer to being finished, I'll spawn in all the creatures that I want it to be able to house and see if I can actually hold that many in the base. I'm hoping for at least 10 Rexes without hassle, and I don't think that'll be a problem. The space is pretty decent. If I could hold 20, that would be ideal, seeing as you can take 20 Rexes out into a boss fight. Now, I won't be putting a teleporter up here. I really like the teleporter, but it has some serious drawbacks. For example, it picks dinos up from underneath it. So if it was a flat edge with the dome over the top, I think it would be perfect. But I've run into a few issues in the past where dinos that weren't in the catchment area must have been either out of service sync or something along those lines, and have actually been picked up and dropped under sections in other bases, or at least other locations. I had a Rex get stuck in a funny spot in one of my builds, but because it got transported across, it landed into the underside of the base and then fell to the floor down there, which is all well and good, but it meant that the teleporter couldn't pick it up to take it back to the other base because it had fallen out of the actual range. So I'm really not wanting to have that happen again, so I won't be putting any teleporters here for that very reason. If I do any teleporters, it'll be on the very lowest level. Now I'm going to take a few of those because I believe I had a spot somewhere around here that was missing something. There it is. Okay, so it looks like all of those done and sorted, so next thing I'm going to do is put the lip around the outside. Now, I'm not having to work how can I explain it? I'm not having to work with the snaps as carefully as I have in the previous levels. I don't need to have... Oh, actually I do. Oh, that's disappointing. I was hoping I was going to be able to get away with not actually lowering the snap point, but if I don't lower the snap point, I won't have the ramps meet up quite right, and that would be a big disappointment. So I guess I will be doing it. So again, along the bottom, along the top, two of those snap right, one of them didn't. Come on. Okay, I think this time around I might do it a little bit differently and actually do those from the top. Although that might take a bit more time, so maybe I will do it from the bottom. I'm just, as I go, I always weigh up my options as to what's going to be the easiest way to do things. Oh, I should have left that out. Sometimes it's better to put all the ones around the bottom here, go up to the top and be standing on something that isn't moving around, place the top ones and then come and pick the bottom ones back up. However, with a build this size, having to take the time to reposition the Quetzal all those times around the structure, it would actually increase the build time, I think, by quite a bit. So I'm trying to make decisions to cut down the amount of time it's going to take. If I was on a server, I wouldn't be worried about how long each of the steps is, because I enjoy the process of going through this and seeing how it comes out. On here I'm going to have to be a little bit more aware of build times and try not to drag things out too much for you guys, at least for those of you that actually do want to watch through the whole build. Still think I need to go through and build a scaffold off this Quetzal. Actually, that's a thought. I wonder if the tech elevators work on a Quetzal. Quetzal to Quetzal, not ground. Oh, what am I doing? Not ground Quetzal, of course. The alignment would be completely wrong. You have to be the world's best flyer. Come on. I'll do a few more and then try a different angle. Okay, so all of those are jumping upwards. Can I get away with snapping to the opposite? Now, the thing is, because I'm on a moving platform, I've got to be doing a quick Q click. So I've mentioned this before. Just before you click to place, you press the Q, and that prevents your movement making such a difference. It won't always work, but it's just one of those things you sometimes have to do. Stacking foundations, that is something you really have to get the hang of. Sometimes you have to do a double Q or things like that to get the placements right. But the Q button is probably the most used button in the game for me, other than the actual click to place. Come on. This one really doesn't like me, does it? I swear I didn't have this much problem with the other runs. Okay, fine. Okay, so that one's going to have to get moved. I do look forward to what they come up with for the next Ark expansion. I've heard rumours that it's going to be the last expansion, that they're not going to do any more. I really hope that's not the case. I'm really hoping that we get a few more Arks. Like, if you consider Aberration has no flyers in it, or at least the flyers like glowtails and things like that are quite small, you can't ride them. I'm hoping we might get an actual flyers only, so there's barely any, oh, what am I doing? Barely any land dinos. I think that would be really cool. I'm also hoping for a proper dragon. Like, I know they got the Wyvern in here. It's not a... I'm thinking of a European dragon. So 4 legs of equal size. Each kind of dragon is different. Obviously, you've got drakes and obviously wyverns, worms. I love dragons. I think they're one of the coolest mythological creatures. If you're into dragons and you've never seen it, have a look for, I think it was the History Channel did a, I think it was Dragon's World, it's a documentary, or a mockumentary as they call it, where it's pretend if dragons did exist, and they did it as a documentary. It was a really cool watch, if you're into dragons, as. And they go into the history of how each of them evolved and things like that, and I thought it was quite a good watch. I watch some pretty obscure things at times. Can't think of the title, not off the top of my head at least. Getting a little bit of server lag at the moment. It must be during a save. It's been approximately 15 minutes. I gotta admit, it is tempting to do this with fly, but I'm trying to restrict fly so I'm not using it too much. So I want this to be a fairly realistic time period for how long it takes to actually build a decent sized base. Whoops. See, it's things like this that people get frustrated with actually working with the dual snaps. That was why it was my first video that I actually covered, because I spent a lot of time in the S+ bug forums. I've probably mentioned this before, and there are a lot of people that moan about the fact that you can't get it to snap to the right snap points. And for most of the parts, it's pretty simple to actually get it done. It's jobs like this where it actually gets really annoying. But I wouldn't trade the dual snap for making this easier, because it adds so much extra things you can do with a snap point that it's just not worth having the ease just to lose those. Oops. So yeah, I estimated yesterday that it was going to take approximately, this was approximately 80% through the actual structure. It's hard to be sure how much I'm actually at. Because when I said it, I was thinking, yeah, everything's all straightforward from here, and forgot there was a few other bits that I wanted to focus on a bit later, like the C-pen underneath, and that shouldn't take too long. That should be a pretty straightforward project. That's just a matter of level out the foundations around the outside of the foundation work, and then once that's leveled, bring it to sea level or just above and put a gate in. That should be pretty easy. And again, I say that and there's always some complication going on. Oops. When it comes to actually posting this series, I'm expecting the first video and the last video to get a fair few hits. All these ones in between, I'm figuring it's only going to be the most dedicated of builders that might actually watch it. This is a pretty tedious project. Any kind of big base build is, but as I said, you know, people have wanted to see the process, and I like building so much in this game. I don't mind going through and showing it all. I think the hardest part for me is actually keeping up the conversation, so it's not just me staring at a screen and you just staring at me work, which I think is a bit unfair. And I've got to agree, as much as I like seeing some of the montage, you know, clips where people build stuff and then they go into the montage and then it's finished. To do that with a build like this, you'd pretty much have to montage the whole build, because each step the results aren't necessarily that obvious. I was hoping this was going to be much quicker. Shame the ramps didn't snap from the bottom. It would have been much more useful. It doesn't matter, I had to add this lip around here anyway, so no point stressing over it. As I said many times before, don't let the build stress you too much, if at all. I mean, you are going to have moments where it's just really getting you down, and if you have those moments, work on something else or walk away. You don't want to let yourself build while you're stressed, because you'll just get more stressed and then you might do something stupid. like get angry and just pull the whole thing down. And I've seen it happen. People get frustrated with their builds, and the exciting thing that they were trying to build gets them down enough that they just give up. And I can understand why they do it, but I'd rather people push through and actually try those exciting builds, even if they fail. See, with something like this, even if it fails, even if it doesn't work out to work like you have it in your head, it may come up with a new design that you hadn't had in mind in the first place, and it's evolved into that. Or maybe it'll give you an idea for the next build that you want to do. Oops. I'm a firm believer that there's no bad ideas, because even a bad idea can, because of someone hearing it and going, oh, that's a terrible idea, why would you do that when you could do this? And suddenly that bad idea has triggered a good idea. So I'm a firm believer in, you know, even a bad idea can be a good idea. So in fact, there is no bad ideas. But that's my take on it. Everyone's obviously different. Oops. Okay, starting to get a bit dark. I think I might change the time of day. I normally just gamma up, but I think today I'll actually use the set time of day to make it nice and bright for you. I'm only doing a small section at a time, just so I don't have to move around the quets too much. And the angle that you work at affects the snaps. Like once you've built for a while, you'll understand that something that doesn't snap in one direction, if you approach it from the opposite side and then try and snap it, it'll snap just fine. There seems to be a very directional kind of process when it comes to actually building an arc. I've tried to like nail down what the actual angles that work are, like the snapping to the opposite technique. I find that it seems to work, like when you're building in the hex, you'll have most of the sides will be fine, and then one particular side of a base, or two particular sides of a base, every single wall along that side will have the need to do a snap to the opposite. And I've tried working out why, but I've never found a specific correlation as to what causes it. If I ever do work it out, of course I'll mention it on a video, but at this point I've not quite worked it out. It would be good to have an idea as to why it does it, and then it'll allow you to plan ahead. You know, maybe it's any wall that faces north, or the northmost facing wall. I'm not saying that it is, it's just would be nice to know that. So as of posting this, the YouTube is going pretty well. We hit 40 subscribers last night, 41 just this afternoon, so I'm really pleased with how that's going. 400 total views now. Of course, I'm only still a small channel, and I do a very specialty kind of building, so I don't think I'm going to hit the levels that a lot of other people manage. Because I'm not a multi-streamer, I don't, sorry, not multi-game creator, it really narrows what kind of traffic I'm going to get. But I'm not really into any other games at the moment. I do a lot of building in other games. Some of them are really old games and I can't see people really being interested in them. Otherwise I would potentially do a little bit of videos on them. I consider doing a bit of scrap mechanic. I do quite enjoy the game. I'm not very good at it. Like, I can build stuff, but I tried building some big structures in that, and whoa, there's a term they use for it in scrap mechanic, block lag I think they called it. Once you've got so many blocks on a structure, it really lags out the game. I know they did change the engine that it was working on, so maybe that'll make a difference. I haven't played in a little while. It's a very fun looking game when you watch people play against their friends. They give each other a time limit of say 10 minutes to build a car and have to race it from one side of the map to the other or something like that. There's some really fun looking videos. I got into playing a bit of Subnautica recently. I think I mentioned that in the last video. And as cool as it is, I'd like to see a bit more that you can build. I feel like it's a little bit limited. I actually got shown a mod last night that very interesting. I'm not ready to try it yet myself, but I can't remember the name of it. It allows snap points to snap in a lot more directions, so you could snap a wall and angle it over slightly, and then snap the next wall and angle that over slightly, and actually create an arch of sorts, for example, or twist a snap point. So if you see the way the walls snap, they snap in the very center, and they've managed to make it spin the walls as they go up, and it looks really interesting, but it's still a very early mod, and I'm not keen on picking up mods that are very new. Like, I know there's the big fad of, oh, this is a new toy to play with, it's something new. I'm the kind of person that I'll give it maybe a few months and revisit it and see how the product is going. In fact, there's actually one that I wanted to have another look at some point. I don't know if they call it Insects Plus or something along those lines. Snap already. And it was adding insect breeding and a few different kinds of insects, if I recall. That actually looked really interesting. But again, I was waiting for it to be in production for a little while before I had a mess with it. I'd rather not deal with the bug side of things if I can help it. Like for S Plus, the bugs on here are pretty straightforward. You can work out what the bugs are, and Orion's Sun is pretty damn good at keeping on top of actually fixing them. He does get blamed for some bugs that just plain old aren't his fault. I mean, he uses vanilla structures for a lot of his, like, all the S Plus stuff is pretty much reskinned vanilla with a few extra abilities added to them. That one flipped. And people have accused some of the problems on what he's done, and it's just plain old not true. It's just not possible that it's his fault. but he cops a lot of flack. Then again, he's the most popular mod author on Ark, so it's not surprising. There's plenty of trolls out there. I've seen trolls from way back. I spend a lot of time on BBS's bulletin board system. I probably have mentioned bulletin boards before. Think miniature internet. It predates the internet. Well, it's not entirely true. It's like someone hosts a server on their computer, a bit like a gaming server, and you can dial up to it. Oh. This was back in the days of dial-up connections. So one person, if they were really good, they'd have like 3 or 4 phone lines coming into their house. I've heard of ones in America that were much bigger, but the ones in New Zealand, 4 was a really decent board, and you'd play door games. And oh man, some of you that are out there that I've seen complain about low graphics, you obviously never played some of the original games. Door games were great, but they were done in ASCII, and there was Legend of the Red Dragon, or Lord as they called it, Barren Realms Elite, Falcon's Eye, and they're all text. Brilliant games. You do still see some games of a similar design. There was one called nukezone.nu, and that actually was around for a little while, and then it just sort of disappeared. I think the player base wasn't really in it like it used to be, but you know, people move on and things change. It's kind of disappointing when things like that happen, especially when it's a game that you really enjoy. I expect Ark will eventually move on, and I'll probably find something new. Can't imagine what at this point. I tend to obsess over things. If I get into a book, I'll obsess about it until I finish it. If I get into a TV series, it's the same thing. Okay, so finally getting somewhere. So we're halfway through today's video, and I'm finally starting on the bit that I wanted to actually do, as is the way of things. I may be able to get away with snapping the triangles like I had tried with the ramps. We'll see how it goes. Now I think what I'm going to do yeah, I think I'll do that. Ooh, that's not an air brake. That is. I'm going to run this down. Oops. Didn't go well. I'm going to run it down, and then I'm actually just going to hop off and hop onto the ramp, and then snap while I'm on the ramp. Come on, you were there before. Okay. First things first, also him to follow. Now he's on maximum follow, so I don't have to worry about him flying off. And snap a couple across the top. And then we'll go downwards. Now, I expected to run into more issues already. So, at some point down the track, I'm probably going to run into a doozy or two. So as you can see, there is a little bit of alignment problem there. And that, like I said, comes down to the fact that these aren't perfect. In fact, that is far from perfect. What is going on there? I know what's going on there. It's actually snapped to the lowest snap point. The one I was trying to snap to, and it wouldn't let me. So what I did is I looked at the top ramp, or at least the bottom of the top ramp, so it picked the snap point that I wanted. So there's the first one, so can access via its wing. And we'll grab some of those. Way overburdened, so we'll have to loot. Oh, also did that. Shift drag doesn't work from your from your hotbar for some reason. Now, if I'm lucky, and I'm not usually, then the snaps for this, because of the way I'm working, because I'm already putting some in place in the angle I'm working from, I may not, yes, have it snapped in a funny place. So that doesn't happen very often, but occasionally you'll get a good run of luck. Oops. That one I can live with. Now, this will probably end up in a funny spot at the top. I'm wondering if it's actually going to hold the snap at the top. Ooh, don't you knock me off. You're in the way though, so I'll backtrack and work from this side. Oops. Now there is actually one person that I think, out of everybody that is going to watch these, that may end up watching all the videos. And I watch his streams from time to time. He streams with his kids, and out of everybody I know, he's probably the one that's most likely to actually be watching this right now. So if you are watching it, hi there Damon, how are you? His links are available from my Discord if you look up Damon Whalen. He seems to watch a lot of my vids. To be honest, I've actually lost track of how I met him. Can't remember if I went into one of his streams or... So I do a lot of networking, and I go onto people's streams and get to know who's playing Ark. I go through and look for people who are playing PvE and are not playing roleplay, because as much as the roleplay builds are really interesting, I'm not really interested in the actual roleplay itself. In my younger years I would have been all over that, but I don't know, with Ark I just like getting in and building. I like having a good laugh. I've met quite a few people, well, at least digitally met them. I've gotten to know with quite a few. Oh, where did that go? Okay, that's definitely snapped upwards. I cannot get that. That is unfortunate. I'm going to need a flyer to fix that piece so I can wait. using the wrong part because it does not want to place. Sometimes the... oh, did that place upwards as well? There goes my run of good luck. Oh, I was going to say something but I've lost it. It doesn't even matter. Never mind. Okay. Yeah, Damon, he does a lot of streaming with his kids and I think that's really cool. His streams are quite, I think they're about PG-13 or something like that. You hear the occasional swearing, but he tends to keep it pretty minimal. They mostly play on Xbox, so unfortunately for them they don't have the luxury of Structures Plus, which is I think the reason he checks my videos out, because he is wanting to get into Structures Plus, so tutorials are always good for that. And I've got a fair bit of experience in building an arc, so hopefully some of my knowledge is rubbed off with him watching the videos. He's actually pointed out a few issues that I've had over the early videos that I can't go back and fix, but I can prevent from happening again. Some of my volumes have been a little bit iffy, which is quite an easy thing to have happen. I had my intro music louder than I needed to compared to my actual speaking, and apparently I was tapering my voice off towards the end of episodes, so the longer I talked the quieter I got. And what it is I couldn't get the push to mute working at first, and I really needed to cough and clear my throat, but as the video went on, because I couldn't do the push to mute, I was just sort of getting quieter and quieter because of it. But I eventually managed to get that sorted, so at least it's not a problem anymore. So many thanks to him for giving me some feedback. Oh, actually, one edit. Now this is actually going to give the base some real definition. But first of all, get rid of these. How many snapped up here? 2, but they're on completely different angles. That's fine. So hopefully my volumes and everything are quite nice for everybody now. There's been a little bit of work on trying to get those a little bit better so that there's not so much of a drastic change. The intros will get changed for this particular series. So my plans are finish this build and then build a new intro based off this build. So all the intro, like I'm going to keep the same length intro at this point. A lot of people have really short intros, and the recommended intro time is like, I think it's like 7 to 9 seconds, which seems really low to me, but you know, whatever. I'm a specialty builder. I'm not going to stress over whether or not I lose a few views because people don't want to stick around. If you guys are serious builders, you'll stick around to watch some of the stuff. It's just going to be the way of it. If anything, it might prevent some of the... Why am I not moving? I just had my finger on the wrong button. Yeah, it might weed out some of the less desirable trolls. I'm expecting trolls at some point. Gonna happen. I've dealt with them over the years. We used to have a lot of fun with them on IRC. Back in the dial-up days, there was a particular brand of modem chipset, the Rockwell chipset, and it had this little bug in it that was really fun for people who were running IRC channels, because IRC allows you to view the person's IP address. So there's a few trolls that we used to get come through, and for the most part we used to leave them be, you know, as long as they weren't being too annoying. And when they got really annoying, we would use a ping. Now, most people know what ping is these days. A ping is when you send a packet of information to a computer, that computer sends a packet of information back, and your ping time is the amount of time it takes for that packet of information to go there and back. So it's pretty straightforward. And what a lot of people don't know is pings don't have to be just a random piece of information. You can have it ping with a very specific piece of information. Well, the Rockwell chipset had this unique bug that if you pinged it with a piece of information, which in the case that I'm thinking of happened to be the code that the Rockwell chipset used to disconnect the modem from its active connection, it would respond with that and thus actually disconnect itself. So when these people used to get really annoying in chat, we would, well, a few of us, would send a disconnection ping to them. So they would be abusing somebody and just suddenly their internet connection would drop out. We had so much fun with that. Just the little things of early days of internet that I really miss. Of course, you got to be careful not to abuse things like that. Just cause and things like that. I wouldn't do it to just any old person. Have to deserve sort of thing like that. So there's a couple of things I'm definitely going to do here. The straight ramps to my right there, there's going to be 6 of them around the this level. I'm actually going to have a go at swapping some of them out and putting... I have to work out my snap points, so I'm probably going to lose a few sections as I do it. I'm going to try and place some sloped hatch frames in the gaps. Now, I'm not sure how it's going to snap, because sloped hatch frames generally snap off a ceiling, and I'm not sure how it's going to like snapping off a ramp. So I might have to scaffold the connection in and then see if I can remove the scaffold. But I'm hoping it works, because that would be a really cool entrance to this level for flyers and the likes. Where did that snap? Oh, again off to the side. Now you may hear me occasionally get frustrated with things like this. Trust me, I don't take it too seriously. Sometimes I'll abuse it, and it's just me just making sure the frustration doesn't sink in. Sometimes you need to yell at it or abuse it, or I will do my best not to use any choice words. So we're currently sitting at about 50 minutes on this video, so definitely not as far through as I was hoping, especially with the size of this area. I was hoping to actually finish this today. Having to do those walls around the top really ate into time, but like I said, they had to be done. It's unfortunate, but you know, it's the way of things, as I said. IRC is still around these days too. Obviously people don't dial up to it anymore, to internet and connect to it anymore, but it's still a viable chat program. I really liked it because there was a few functions with it that really resonated with me. You could write your, if you had the MIRC software, you could write your own scripts, so you could get it to provide you with more information than what the standard chat would do. You could download scripts as well, but I always found it more fun to write my own. I actually developed a chat bot. I used to call it Sarah, and I put it in chat, and I tell you what, the amount of guys that would message my bot and try and actually have a conversation with it, because I'd set it to respond to people, and it, you know, it was very primitive, but I'd added, well, look at that, now that is starting to look really cool. Okay, I'm really happy with how that's looking now. Like I said, it takes a certain part of your build to actually get it to look like what you're expecting to look like, and it's really starting to get there now. But yeah, I had this chatbot respond to the most commonly used like chat questions and things like that. I'm going to say back in my day, it's going to make me sound old as, but back in my day, one of the common chat questions you were asked, and it ended up becoming a bit of a faux pas, was ASL, question mark. And it was basically asking age, sex, location. So obviously age, are you male or female, and where are you from? And eventually people started to get offended by the whole ASL thing. But when we first started out, that was quite a common thread. So I took things like that and added it to the chatbot, and as time went on, I just sort of added more and more, and like I said, it wasn't great, but there was plenty of people that actually had full-on conversations with this bot before realizing it wasn't actually real. And okay, I used to have it running because it used to be an admin in the channel that I had myself, and I would go at the end of the day to check something, and it's like, what the hell, I've got all these messages, and I'd go through some of the messages and it's like, oh, somebody's tried having a conversation with them, someone's hitting on the bot again. The things that make you smile. Be surprised how easily some people can be fooled. That section seems to have gone together quite nicely. I think some of these have snapped too low though. No, this is correct. Oh no, there's that one there. Okay, I thought one had not quite landed properly. Again. Oh, come on. Okay, we'll try it. Snap to the opposite. Yeah, I hit Q and it didn't seem to move, but it ended up in the right place in the end. I've only got a few minutes of video left, so I'm pushing to get another section done if I can. At least use up what materials I've got on me. It was totally the wrong place, but oh well. Now quite often when I'm building, because I build solo, I will often have TV or something playing in the background. I've gone through so many different movies, and I can't tell you how many times I've watched the Jurassic Park movies and New Terra Nova. Sorry, Terra Nova. New Terra Nova is the server group I play on. You know, shows like that. I've watched Grand Designs. I chose that one day. I thought, well, I do a lot of building, Ah, it's not going to work. I do a lot of building. I'll put something building related on. I try and theme what I'm doing with what I'm watching. Oh, sorry, what I'm watching with what I'm doing. Yeah. It's gone the wrong place as well. Fine. And I was hoping to get some inspiration off some of the builds, but they're so much different than what we can do in Ark. But still enjoyable watch. I really love that show. Oh, really? Sometimes when I'm trying to go that much faster, I make more mistakes. Okay. It's starting to get pretty hot in this room, because I have to close all the windows and doors and whatnot while I'm recording so I don't get ambient noise. That's all of those. This room tends to heat up quite a bit. And that is a lot of structures we've gone through today. Surprises even me. As far as it goes, if you actually look at the top level compared to what we're doing here, there's actually the same amount of tiles used for the sloped area as there is to cover the very top level. So shaping something like this doesn't actually add more tiles. So I'm going to scaffold it and then I'm going to remove some of the scaffold. I won't do that till I've made sure all the snaps are in place, so I'm not going to have it all fall down. But seriously? Stop snapping there. Thank you. Yeah, so building in a shapely design doesn't necessarily have to use more than what you would have done if you were doing a box build, or at least a squarish looking structure, because you've got to match what on this side as to what's above for it all to line up. So you can build really shapely things and still keep them within the realms of the possible and the number of snaps number of structures you're allowed. I can't remember the exact number of structures off the top of my head. I think it's 11,200 is the default level. I normally automatically just double it. If I'm hosting a dedicated session or a single player, I'll just double the number, and that'll do me. I've not hit a double. Where'd that go? I'll fix it if it shows up on the outside. Yeah, I've never hit a double build limit yet. Not from the lack of trying. I've definitely done some huge builds. My Aquaticus build, which is not quite finished, that is probably going to hit the second build limit if I'm not careful. Mostly because I had to use 3 XL walls to get it off the sea floor to the surface of the water, and then built the base on top. It ended up being quite a lot of structures, but it did spread out a little bit. Oh, seriously? Of course it snapped up there. I'm a little bit over the time, but I'm just going to finish this last section. I'm not going to pick up the pieces that have snapped funny. We can save that for another video. See, this is the exciting part for me, is when I start to see something really take shape. And as dull as putting all these things in today is, especially for you guys watching, I'm assuming, the overall result comes out really great. Like if you actually look at this, once I remove all the walls and whatnot, or add walls depending on quite what I decide to do, this is going to be a nice spacious area. What I'm thinking is I'll put 4 walls up and then push those, put ceilings towards the ramp, and that'll be some small flyer storage. So what I'm going to do is set the time of day again, camera back, and we'll have a quick look just as we leave how it's looking. That's great. That looks awesome. It's a really nice big structure. Very cool. My golem's still in the water. He went off after some sharks. Okay, let's get rid of you just before I land. Actually, you hit me. No, golem must be on passive again. Neutral. You take care of it. Okay. Golem hits a lot harder than the quets. So there we go, that's how it's looking from the ground. So as you can see, it is a formidable structure. Now I still have to stick the towers on. So that's going to be a challenge. I had planned to stick those on before I did the actual outside ramp, wasn't I? No matter, I can work that out next time. They'll probably get stuck to fairly close to the very edge. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Obviously we're covering pretty much the same kind of techniques that we have used in the last couple of videos, but as I said, this is what happens with big builds. There's a lot of tedious work. So I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you do like the video, make sure you hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, although if you're this far through, I'm sure you've already subscribed. Make sure you join in the Discord. You can have a chat with myself or any other builders in there and access some of the screenshots that I've got. Until next time, take care and enjoy your building.